The movie begins with the scene of a woman named Leonora, who has a passion for running, embarking on her usual run. The narrator, who is later revealed to be an elderly detective, shares that love is often the driving force behind many murders, which are rarely random. At the same time, a man named Christian, Leonora's husband, is seen in a van. Seeing Leonora run by triggers his deep resentment for her, prompting him to accelerate his van with the intent to hit her. The detective is telling this story to his daughter over lunch, and it's evident from their conversation that he is convinced of Christian's guilt and remains engrossed in the case. He continues his story, taking us back 3 days before the murder. In the middle of the night, Christian's phone keeps buzzing, disturbing him and Leonora. Leonora, irritated, wants to know who's calling, but Christian doesn't tell her, leading her to suspect an affair. It's revealed that Christian, skilled in craftsmanship and engineering, started a prosperous construction business with his friend Peter. Leonora, a talented violinist, admitted to a prestigious music school, had to put her career on hold when their son Johann was found to have cancer. The day after their disagreement, Leonora says sorry to Christian, who brushes it off. She drops their son at school as Christian heads to work. At work, he's spotted being flirtatious with Xenia, the one behind the late-night text. Xenia insists he pick between her and his wife, leaving Christian conflicted between his feelings for Xenia and his commitment to his son, Johann, who's recuperating. Xenia, frustrated by his hesitation, walks away, but Christian draws her back, tenderly touching her as she recognizes their bond. Upon returning home, Leonora sifts through Christian's Facebook while simultaneously trying to recover messages from his broken phone, a request denied by the phone company. A photo of Christian and Xenia sharing a warm smile confirms her suspicions of an affair. Christian's lack of interest in intimacy that evening further fuels her doubts. At a work event later that night, Leonora's jealousy intensifies as Christian publicly praises Xenia's work. When she spots them heading upstairs during the celebration, she decides to follow. To her astonishment, Leonora stumbles upon the shocking scene of Christian and Xenia in a sexual encounter. Xenia, aware of Leonora's presence, smiles at her, while Christian remains unaware of his wife's discovery. On their return from the party, Christian senses Leonora's silence and inquires if something is amiss. Leonora, maintaining her composure, dismisses his concern, attributing her quietness to fatigue. The following day, Christian turns to his recently divorced best friend Kim for advice. He confesses that his love for his wife has faded after 2 decades of marriage. Kim advises Christian that honesty is the best approach if he's considering divorce. Taking Kim's advice to heart, Christian musters the courage to discuss divorce with Leonora. He finally confronts her with his decision to end their marriage. No longer willing to hold her silence, Leonora confronts Christian about witnessing his actions at the office the previous day. This revelation escalates the tension as Leonora's anger flares. She had sacrificed her career over the past 20 years to care for their ailing son, leaving her with nothing in the event of a divorce. She threatens to expose Christian's fraudulent business practices to the authorities, which have amassed him a fortune. Furthermore, it was this very crime that forced Leonora to abandon her career. Fearing imprisonment, Christian attempts to placate Leonora with money. However, she rejects his offer, asserting that their agreement was about their family, not financial gain. Later that day, Xenia meets Christian to confirm if he has left his wife. Christian assures her that his relationship with Leonora is over, which pleases Xenia. She then invites Christian to meet her visiting parents, to which he agrees. Despite his assurances to Xenia, Christian seeks advice from Kim, confessing his inability to leave Leonora due to the compromising information she holds over him. Kim shares his own experience of receiving threats from his ex-wife before their divorce. He suggests that Christian seek the help of Leonora's close friends to persuade her to agree to a divorce. However, Leonora, having spent years indoors caring for Johann, has few friends. Unaware to Christian, Leonora has started trailing him. In a conversation with Cassandra, Christian reveals his plans to divorce Leonora. Cassandra cautions him about Leonora's past boyfriend, Mike, who mysteriously fell off a cliff and died. The town gossip suggests that Mike was intending to leave Leonora and was already involved with another woman, leading to speculation that Leonora might have caused his death. Sensing an opportunity to leverage this information against Leonora, Christian decides to find the woman Mike was seeing. He visits the cliff from where Mike fell and connects with Sonia, the woman Mike was allegedly involved with. Sonia recounts that she and Mike were camping in the woods and had snuck off for some privacy. She felt watched, and after Mike left for a smoke, she heard a scream and found him at the bottom of the cliff. Cassandra claims to have seen Leonora at the scene. Interestingly, Leonora was spotted lurking nearby while Mike was on call. When the townspeople were questioned about Mike's death, Leonora's music teacher vouched for her, stating she was at a violin practice at the time. After learning all this, Christian returns home where Leonora asks him to leave. He resists, fearing she might call the police, and attempts to blackmail her with the town's suspicion of her involvement in Mike's death. Upon hearing Christian's accusations, Leonora is disturbed but dismisses them due to lack of proof. She insists that she won't involve the police if he stays with her, and even forces him to call Zinnia to end their relationship, which he can't do due to his love for her. After a heated argument, she expels him from the house, asserting her ownership of the house and their son. Cornered, Christian reacts like any animal would, according to the detective. He devises a plan, swaps his car with a white van at his office. Concurrently, Leonora continues her jogging routine in the drizzling rain. Christian positions himself behind trees along Leonora's jogging route. Upon seeing Leonora jogging, Christian accelerates and hits her with his van. Seeing her still moving, he reverses and runs over her again. He then leaves the scene and sneaks into his office to create an alibi. At home, he avoids his son and breaks down in the shower, overwhelmed by guilt. After a drink to calm his nerves, he is stunned to see Leonora return home. She casually inquires if he's ended his affair and mentions her change in jogging route. Realizing his mistake, Christian is horrified. That night, when Leonora questions his return, he affirms his desire for her, despite it being a lie. The following morning, as they prepare to leave, their neighbor arrives with the shocking news of a woman's death in a hit-and-run incident the previous night. This occurred on the same path that Leonora typically uses for her daily run. Leonora visits the scene of the accident and discovers that the victim was a mother of 3. A few days later, during a graduation party at their home, a detective unexpectedly arrives to question Christian about any unusual occurrences he might have noticed that night. Christian explains that he was working late at the office at the time of the incident, which seems to satisfy the detectives, and they promptly depart. Soon after, Christian finds himself staring at an unanswered text from Zinnia, feeling distinctly uneasy amidst the graduation party. He visits the site where the woman was struck, reading the heartfelt messages left by her children at an impromptu memorial. Overwhelmed by guilt, he decides to confess to the police, but is instead instructed to sit and wait. During this period, a text from his son reminds him of his desire not to let him down. Concurrently, a news report suggests that the hit-and-run culprit may have already left the country, prompting him to reconsider and return home. However, the situation escalates when Leonora becomes suspicious after finding her car wash card unexpectedly depleted. She obtains security footage from the clerk showing the exact time and date her card was used, which reveals Christian washing the van involved in the accident. This leads Leonora to suspect that Christian had tried to harm her as well. Seeing his guilt confirms her suspicions. She attempts to report him to the police, but Christian intercepts her call. In an attempt to alleviate the tension, he fabricates a tale about their decision to call the police due to a recent sighting of a truck with foreign plates in the vicinity. He chases after Leonora, returning her phone and pleading with her to stay, but she drives off in fear. As the husband begins to despair, a detective arrives at their home. Before confronting the detective, he embraces his son, expressing his love. Surprisingly, the police are not there to apprehend him, but to inquire further about the foreign plate he mentioned on the phone. Throughout the interaction, Christian appears anxious, arousing the detective's suspicion, but without concrete evidence, he cannot be arrested. He then receives a text from Leonora inviting him to dinner. When they meet again, she confesses that she could never turn him into the police, as her primary concern is their son and the potential devastation of his life if Christian were to be incarcerated. Simultaneously, she has lost faith in Christian, and in order for him to regain it, she wants him to eliminate Zinnia, who will always pose a threat to their marriage as long as she's alive. She then persuasively convinces Christian that all he requires is a solid alibi, similar to the one she had when she took the life of her boyfriend, Mike. At this juncture, she starts to disclose everything about the rumor, including how she stealthily went into the forest and observed Mike being intimate with Cassandra before pushing him off a cliff when he was alone. Subsequently, she hurried back to the school and slipped into the music room through the window where a turntable had been playing a violin piece all along. She instantly pretended to be the one playing the violin when the music teacher came to check on her shortly after. So the couple decides to vacation at a hotel as a cover, while Christian is actually assigned to kill Zinnia and stage it as a burglary. He sneaks out to visit Zinnia's house, but she rejects him due to his lack of communication. Despite this, Christian is persistent. He forces his way into her house, expressing his deep love for her. Concurrently, his wife at the hotel orders room service, casually mentioning her husband is in the shower. As a final move, she uses Christian's phone to text Xenia, stating that Christian is choosing his wife and children over her. Aware of the message, Christian distracts Xenia as soon as it arrives, kissing her and steering her away from her phone. Simultaneously, Leonora intensifies her efforts. When her food arrives, she excuses herself to the restroom and plays a recording of Christian's voice to simulate a conversation. However, instead of executing Xenia, Christian spends a passionate night with her. Later that night, Xenia notices an open window while freshening up. Suddenly, Leonora appears behind her and stabs her. When Xenia doesn't return, Christian goes to find her, only to discover Leonora standing over Xenia's lifeless body. A few days later, the police are called to Zinnia's house after a missing person report from the neighbors. They find all of Zinnia's electronics missing. Strangely, there's no body to be found, and the bed sheets are devoid of any DNA or fingerprints. The police retrieve a recent text from her phone, sent from Christian's, stating he wants to end their affair. This leads the police to the couple's home for questioning, but the detective remains unsatisfied and suspects foul play. The detective sends a dog team to search the nearby forest for a body, while Christian and Leonora throw a house party. A nervous Christian is sent by Leonora to start a bonfire in the middle of the lake. As the dogs come out of the woods and start barking near the lake, Christian quickly tries to light the bonfire with gasoline. Despite his efforts, Christian has trouble lighting the matches with only 2 left. Finally, the bonfire starts, the dogs stop barking, and Christian returns to his family as the detective leaves. Christian notices a woman with binoculars, approaches her, and asks to use them. He then sees Xenia's body in the bonfire. Later, the family decides to sell their house and move, and we see Christian near the lake with a bag. The narrative returns to the detective, who concludes the story for his daughter. It seems Christian was never convicted due to insufficient evidence, but the detective believes he's guilty. The film concludes with an image of Xenia's remains at the river's bottom.